Okay, so these are our partial fraction problems. So I'm just going to kind of work through them. I thought it might be nice to make a video and then you could kind of see like how it's progressing as well as kind of talking you through my steps that I'm doing. So here's the first one. We want to use partial fractions on this. And again, this is the AP one, so there's multiple choice here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor the denominator and the x squared minus 1, remember, factors into x plus 1, x minus 1. So let's separate this out, and because the factors don't have any exponents or anything like that, it's going to be a over x plus 1 and b over x minus 1. Okay, so then we're going to set up our equation. And in this one, it's pretty simple because I'm just multiplying each one by the other denominator. So I'm going to multiply a times x minus 1, and I'm going to multiply b times x plus 1. And then here's my equation that I'm going to solve for a and b with, okay? So let's start with this one's not going to be too bad. X equals 1. So I'm going to plug in 1, and I'm going to get 4 equals a times 0. So that's going to zero out the a. And then b times 2. So 2b equals 4, so b equals 2. So I got my first one. Now I'm going to try to zero out the x plus 1, which means I'm going to plug in a negative 1. So this time 4 equals a times negative 2. And then b will be zeroed out. So negative 2a equals 4. So a equals negative 2. Now just, I'm going to switch the order just because I prefer to do my positive one first. So I'm going to take the integral of b, which is 2, over x minus 1. And then I'm going to subtract the integral of a, which is negative 2, that's why it's minus, over x plus 1. Make sure you're getting the right numerator over the right denominator. Make sure that you're putting the number for a where a goes, and then the number for b where b goes, okay? And so now I can integrate these, and these are both going to be natural logs. So the first one is going to be 2 natural log of x minus 1 minus 2 natural log of x plus 1. And then, of course, my plus c. Now I'm going to pause for a second here, and I'm just going to take a look at the answer choices and see which one fits here, because I don't want to simplify too much, but I want to simplify to get the right answer, okay? So first of all, D and C are out because I don't have any trig functions here. And then I'm looking at both of these, but remember that minus, when I'm subtracting two logs, it means that I divide the parts. So that means that letter B is my clear choice here, okay? So before you get too crazy on the simplifying, because this is a multiple choice test, you want to just stop and look at your answer choices and kind of see what there is, and that should direct you into how much you need to simplify or where you need to go with your simplification, okay? So I would always stop right here. I've integrated, I'm going to stop. I'm going to look at my answer choices, see what I'm working with. B is clearly the answer here. And it's kind of nice because maybe I forgot my log rules. Maybe I forgot that subtraction means division, but I can very clearly see that B is the only choice that even makes sense given what I got when I integrated. Okay. So this is not too bad. This isn't too terribly difficult. You didn't need any second degrees or anything like that. So that was kind of helpful. Let's look at another example of an AP style question. This one is a little daunting to look at, I'll be honest with you. But when you notice that the denominator is already factored for you, that's a really helpful thing here. And notice that my answer choices are all pretty similar. I can kind of see how it's going to work out. So that's actually, the fact that it's multiple choice here is really kind of helpful. Because we can just kind of solve out a little bit and see where we're at. Okay, so I'm going to set up my equations. So I'm going to have negative 2x squared plus 7x minus 8 over all three of these. And then that's going to be equal to a over x plus 2, b over 2x minus 1, and then c over 1 minus x. So this time I have 3 variables that I'm going to be solving for, okay? So let's start with, and I'm going to scroll down here a little bit so I have some more room just to work. Let's start with multiplying out. So negative 2x squared plus 7x minus 8 is going to be equal to, now the common denominator is all 3 of these, so I'm going to have to multiply each numerator by the other 2 because none of them have anything in common. I'm not actually going to multiply this out. You'll see I'm just going to leave it in parentheses because that makes it so much easier to plug into, okay? So I know sometimes we get a little stuck in the algebra, and there's not really any reason to here. Just because you don't need to multiply this out, you don't need to FOIL it, you don't need to do any of that. It's actually going to make your life a lot easier if you just leave them in the parentheses for plugging in, okay? So here's my equation. Nope, I was talking and not paying attention. X plus 2 and 2x minus 1. Pay attention to what you're doing. There's a lot of detail here. There's a lot of nuance, and you want to make sure that you get all the pieces in the right spot. So, hopefully you're not talking while you're taking the AP test, so you can kind of focus on your work there and make sure you get everything right, okay? So I'm going to start with, let me scroll down here for a minute. I'm just going to work my way left to right, and so I'm going to start with zeroing out the A by using a 1. I could zero out either of these parentheses, but this one's going to give me a fraction, so I'm going to try to avoid that until the end if I can. And I'm just going to use 1 because 1 will zero out that really nicely. Don't forget that you're also plugging into 1 for all of this part over here, okay? So I'm going to have negative 2 times 1 squared plus 7 times 1 minus 8. It never hurts to show your work on this stuff just to make sure you don't make a silly mistake. I noticed when I was looking at the answer choices that they're all very similar. So it looks like I'm going to need to really pay attention to my signs so that I can really make sure that I don't make a silly mistake and get the wrong plausible answer that's predicated on me adding instead of subtracting or vice versa. Okay. So I'm just going to put it all in. When I put 1 in for this first parenthesis, I get 2 minus 1, which is 1. And in the second one, 1 minus 1 is 0. I like to write all this out just to show it. Again, just to make sure that I'm not doing something silly and making an easy mathematical mistake that could have been avoided if I just knew how to add numbers correctly, So the nice thing about this is it zeroes out both the A and the B. And so I have 3C is equal to, and then I'm going to do this real quick. So negative 2 plus 7 is 5, minus 8 is negative 3. So C is equal to negative 1. Now, let's see if there's anything else that's easy to zero out. And I'm looking at this x plus 2. It would be pretty easy if I used a negative 2 to plug in, okay? So again, don't forget, this is probably the biggest thing that I see is people forget to plug it into the left side or the polynomial side. They plug it into the A, B, and C portion, but they forget to plug it into the other side, and then it's, not very fun to work with. So let's see, when we plug in negative 2, we get negative 5 and 3. And the B is going to zero out. Nope, 1 minus 2 is not negative 3, it is negative 1. And then here the C is also going to zero out. This becomes negative 5. So now we have negative 15a. And then let's do the math over here. So that's, let's see, negative 8 minus 14 minus 8 is negative 30, right? So then A equals 2. So now I've got 2 of my numbers. C is negative 1, A is 2. And so the easy thing actually here would be to plug those in and just solve for B. Or I could go the route of doing the 1/2, which would zero out the A and the C and leave it with B. So I think since I'm kind of on a roll with this, I'm just going to do the 1/2. And I was kind of hoping to avoid having to square a fraction, but here we are. And that's okay. It happens. We're all good at math. We can handle this. Let's see, that's going to be 0. And you know what? It doesn't really matter what that is because it's going to zero out. 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5, which is 5/2. And 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. And then C, we're going to get 5/2 again, and then 0. So A and C zero out this time, and we get 5/2 times 1/2 is 5/4, B. And then over here we have negative 1/2 plus 7/2 minus 8. Negative 1/2 plus 7/2 is 6/2, which is 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So negative 5 divided by 5/4 or times 4/5 is negative 1/4. No, it's not. It is negative 4. Sorry. There we go. Because negative 4 times 5/4 is going to give me a negative 5. Which I should have known because looking up here, those all look a little different than 1/4. So let's plug these back in. So we know A is 2, B is negative 4, and C is negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to have the integral of 2 over x plus 2. And then B was negative 4, so minus the integral of 4 over 2x minus 1. Plus, and then C was negative 1. Oops, so let's make that a minus. 1 over 1 minus x, which means that I have 2 ln of x plus 2 minus 4 ln of 2x minus 1 minus the natural log of 1 minus x. Okay, now I just have to match this up with the correct one. So A is out, and then that takes me to D. So D is the correct answer here. And then I always check my last ones just to make sure. And of course, I didn't write the plus C, I know, but we know it's there because it's in all the answer choices. So don't worry about it. Remember, we approach the AP test just a little bit differently than we would a normal test because it's not free response here, it's multiple choice. So some of the pieces you don't necessarily have to worry about that you would have to worry about if you were, taking this test in your math class. Okay? I hope that helps a little bit with partial fractions. Those are 2 examples from what you would see on the AP test, and this should help put you a little farther ahead in your studying. Best of luck.